Welcome to Let's Talk Ball. I'm Thad Brown along with Carl Jones. Every single week we talk about the Bills, the last game they played from the point of view of the All-22 film, X's and O's, diving in, having some fun, looking into what really happened in these games. Now, the Bills got the win, Carl, over the Dolphins, 30-27. Look, they scored 30 points on offense, and I've spent the last 3 days looking at the stats from the game and then the film, wondering who the heck played well enough for them to score 30 points, because I really didn't see any individual that stood out.
Yeah, it wasn't like some Herculean performance by any individual player. I think you have moments. Like I think Khalil Shakir had moments. Obviously, the play where he broke 3 tackles to extend that drive was cool. I know he had to drop later on, probably more of Josh, however you want to call that. But yeah, it wasn't like one like James Cook didn't run the ball like all too well. Ray Davis had the long play. But like out of the let's say 16, 17 players that played on offense, there wasn't like an A+ performance by any means.
Yeah, and even the Shakir drops. I know people were kind of raising an eyebrow at that, like, because it's Khalil Shakir, he never drops anything. Those were all harder throws. Those were not, easy catches. So, and I think maybe to your point, there wasn't an A+ on the team, but there weren't any C-minuses either. Everybody kind of played in the middle. The one thing I do want to talk about that I liked was the Joe Brady game plan, because he had multiple wrinkles in this game that I really liked. The Shakir leak catch in the first half, I think it was second quarter, where he blocks for a moment and then just pops outside and there's no one there. The James Cook drop was a really good play where they set a bunch of crossers in front of a linebacker and it ended up leaking out James Cook one-on-one by himself. That one didn't work, but it was still a good wrinkle. And Carl, the fourth down touchdown to Mac Hollins, you saw it, you and I who watched this team enough and watched the Dolphins enough, the moment that catch is made and you see like what direction Mac Hollins is running the back of the end zone, you know that the Bills were just trying to cross up man coverage all day long and succeeded with it.
For sure, that's exactly what happened. Once again, if you listen to us on this space here, man coverage in terms of just running from point A to point B and running straight across the field, unless you're Deion Sanders or Darrell Green, ain't many DBs who can stop that right there. So I'm sure the Bills had that in their back pocket all week in game planning. And then also the long Ray Davis touchdown. Listen, the Dolphins butchered that up once he caught the ball. However, that was once again another situation where the Dolphins ran a bunch of traffic and crossers, and you want the linebacker to fight through that to get to the running back. And that's clearly was something that Joe Brady wanted to do. Now, obviously, once Ray Davis got the ball, the Dolphins just were napping it up back there and struggling trying to tackle my man. But regardless, that was clearly what the Bills were trying to target all Sunday long.
And the Dolphins have always been a heavy man team. They weren't as much in this game, but they always are the team where when the Bills want to try and, run receivers across the middle of the field, get picks, they generally have a lot of success against Miami. And I give the Dolphins credit. It's about time to a degree, but they played enough zone to really force the Bills out of that comfort zone of attacking with man beater type stuff. But still, I thought Joe Brady, for the most part, had a really, really good game plan. I talked to you before, the Keon Coleman penalty play, where it's 3rd and 9 and the Dolphins been dropping deep all day long and the Bills sent 3 verts on a 3rd and 9. I hated that call, but it still worked out. And overall, I thought Joe Brady had a really, really solid game. Beyond that, one other guy I want to talk about in the offensive line, I thought O'Cyrus Torrence had a rough day run blocking. I thought Deion Dawkins had a good day run blocking, but Torrence has kind of been up and down this year. This was, I think, a down game for him. Not an overly big red flag, but some days you're going to play well, some days you don't. And I think for the most part, the offensive line has been good, but it's 64 who's kind of had his ups and his downs. Speaking of ups and downs, do you got something on that? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say coming up, the defensive tackles he's going to face over the next month or so, whether that's DeForest Buckner this upcoming week, Chris Jones after that, McNeil from the Lions. There's some boys up front in the interior that are going to definitely test everything that he got going on right now.
I think it speaks to how good the offensive line has been that O'Cyrus Torrence being kind of average is the guy we circle all the time as the problem child in the team. And he really hasn't been that bad. I think his pass blocking has improved a little bit, but this was just not a really good game for him. Now, Josh Allen in this game, and to the overall point where we started this, wasn't spectacular. Played a pretty solid game, had an interception that was totally not his fault. But the thing that was unusual about this game is the Bills scored 30 points and Josh Allen averaged 6 yards per attempt. And if you throw out that Ray Davis play, which was really a glorified pitch, he was 4.5 yards per attempt, which is ridiculously bad. You should not be scoring 30 points with that. But Carl, the offense is different this year and he's making it work.
Yeah, for sure. Take that stat even a bit further. The lowest of his career, mind you, Josh Allen has played a bunch of football games. in a lot of different circumstances. That average depth of target, so literally the average yardage down the field that he threw the ball was 3.7. That's like, as someone who's watched the Browns a lot this year, that's the Deshaun Watson type stuff where he's scared to throw the ball down the field, so he's getting screens all day. But that goes to show you that Josh Allen is very comfortable with the guys around him as well as in the ecosystem of the offense that Joe Brady is putting together. Because in years past, how many guys did you really feel comfortable with the ball in their hands to create yak yardage, right? Like, I mean, I know Diggs was a great player, but it wasn't necessarily his MO and the best thing that he was good at. But clearly, Khalil Shakir is one of the best players in football at it. Dalton Kincaid shows some promise with it at times. Obviously, anytime any running back is going to be, that's going to be their game. And then also Keon Coleman has shown some chops with that as well. So he's clearly like, you know what? I feel comfortable in you guys turning 2 into 9 and turning 3 into 15. And the Bills did that all game long against the Dolphins.
Well, it's a lot easier to get run after the catch too when the throw is short. When you're throwing 3 yards with teams that are dropping deep, I mean, this whole NFL world right now is too deep, keep everything in front of you. You're going to be able to turn and go. But I think that the thing that I want to point that out with, to credit Josh Allen in the season he's had, is that he's taking those throws more. And I don't have the data to pass it up, but anecdotally, it feels like he's trying to down the field, small window stuff less. And I'm not necessarily saying that's good or bad, because I think there are some longer throws he could take that he's not, and he's taking shorter stuff, maybe not getting as much. But what that does is, it promotes exactly what you're talking about, which is more run after the catch, showing confidence in the weapons on your team to use their God-given abilities to move the ball down the field. And B, there are less interceptions. When you're throwing that short ball all the time, you're going to put the ball in harm's way a whole lot less. And I think cutting down the turnovers, although it's not the end all be all of quarterback play, is something the Bills have wanted to do. And you saw it in this game. Again, go right back to where we started. They scored 30 points with Josh Allen having one spectacular play, the absolutely ridiculous touchdown throw to Quentin Morris. I think this is a positive development for where Josh Allen has been. And we've talked about him. Look, this is a guy that's been 9.7 out of 10 forever. If you get to 9.8, that's a hell of an improvement.
Yeah, for sure. I know. And for people who are maybe could be discouraged about the dinking, the dumping it down the field, don't worry. As long as 17 has the ball in his hands, from time to time, he might get a little curious and throw it 15, 20 yards down the field. So don't think that he's ever going to feel like he needs to be held back all the way. At times, you can even see it where he's itching. So he's like, do I do it? He triple pump faked the one time. I think that was to Dalton Kincaid on the Bills sideline, if I'm not mistaken. He pump faked 3 times because he was like, man, do I do it? Do I do it? Nah, let me just chill out. He still got the urges to do it, and I think it'll come out in situations where they need him to be that guy.
Curious is a great word for it. I think it's absolutely perfect when you think about, maybe I could try. No. And that play, that's actually the rollout play. I've seen him do it 2 weeks in a row now with Seattle. I think that pump fake is a hold a linebacker just to expand the space outside for the intermediate receiver down the field. In this case, it was Dalton Kincaid. It's a very heady, very, quarterback, way beyond quarterback 101 play. You're into the advanced placement stuff in terms of being able to make that stuff work on the field. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And look, number one, was the run game, the run defense issues, which has been a problem all year long. And we've talked about it, and it's going to be, you could probably, queue up the Ravens discussion from that game and just replay the thing right now. It's going to be the same topic, same stuff. Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver and anybody else who played defensive tackle just got whooped. One play after another. It wasn't 100% of the plays. That's why the Bills had, 3 or 4 or 5 stops for 0 and tackles behind the line. But there were so many 7s and 8s and 12s and 13s because the defensive tackles are not getting penetration, not causing a problem, and not even occupying 2 blockers, so that when they get blocked, so are the linebackers behind them. And when you have both tackles and both linebackers getting blocked by one offensive lineman, which happened a ton in this game, you're going to get $150 on the ground.
Bingo. And I know some people will point to the fact where, the Bills played a lot of too high stuff, right? Where like you had 2 safeties deep. So because of that, you're going to be short in the run game. I would buy that and say, yes, that's the only reason they got gashed. If the Bills haven't got gashed, even when they had heavier boxes on defense. So that's where, like, if you're a fan of the Bills and you want to see how far this team can go, I do think that is a valid concern, because when you get to the postseason, you aren't going to be able to live in just one world or the other. You're going to have to throw multiple variety of looks at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know the Baltimore Ravens have Derrick Henry, but don't get it twisted. They can do both as well as now that they've gotten Deontay Johnson as well. So you just can't live in a two high world or live in a single high safety world. You're going to have to do a variety of stuff. So if you can't stop the run in either one, that's going to show up against, especially against the better teams in the league. But it all starts up front, as Sean McDermott reminds us every single week. Like he'll say this tomorrow at 11:48 at his press conference on Wednesday. The game starts up front in the trenches.
To your point too, if you want to put it on dropping deep and playing all that too deep stuff and trying to keep it in front, well, all right, then you're saying that we can't stop the run unless we put bodies in the box. And if we put bodies in the box, it's going to expose us down the field. Well, you're just saying that you can't defend football. I mean, that's what you're saying. That this isn't about like, oh, if we do this, then we can stop the run. Well, if you do this, then you can't stop the pass. That means you've got defensive issues. And that's what we're talking about. The Bills are just losing up front over and over and over. It's why I thought at the trade deadline, they might go out, especially with the injuries they have and the defensive line, go out and add somebody, some kind of help. I know Jordan Phillips says on his Instagram he's coming back. Jordan Phillips is not that guy in the run game. I don't know where they fix this. You know, again, Oliver and Daquan Jones are supposed to be those guys, and they just haven't been this year. Ed Oliver, I will say, had a really nice game rushing the passer, multiple multiple pressures in this game. In a game too, where, you know, the Bills by the second half, they weren't even trying to rush the quarterback because they got tired of knowing they never get there in time for a lot of different reasons. I want to point out two things, but number one, in terms of the pass D, Kaiir Elam gets his first start in over a calendar year in place of Christian Benford. I was surprised. I thought Jamarcus Ingram's been the better player this year, but Carl, you thought Elam had a pretty solid day.
Yeah, he didn't really get a lot of opportunities to play man coverage, and even in zone, he didn't get a lot of opportunities. There were like 6 or 7 plays where I thought he had a chance to show, okay, guys, like I'm ready to go out there. And I would say probably 5 out of the 7, he looked like a player who could help the Bills out today. Obviously, the one that sticks out is the Tyreek Hill out and up, and that was a play that, quite frankly, Tua Tagovailoa missed. Like that's a play that's supposed to be a touchdown, and that's a great play by Tyreek Hill to even bring that down in the first place. You're going to get beat at corner. You're not going to bat 100, but I think that is a play that Kaiir told us in the locker room he wanted to get back, and I'm looking back on film for sure as well. But he looked a lot more comfortable at the line of scrimmage, wasn't as handsy. And to be frank, he's kind of always played well against the Dolphins, and some of that is probably due to his God-given gifts as a guy who won't panic because he is not as fast as Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, but he's a fairly athletic guy himself, so he feels confident as opposed to someone else who, alrighty, I run like 4.6. I got to make sure my technique is on point because this guy is going to make me look slow. And Kaiir is not going to feel like that because he's a guy who's very comfortable. So I thought it was a solid game for sure. And that based off that alone, and it wasn't a lot of reps, I'd say about 7 or 8 at most. If Christian Benford is out any further or any longer, excuse me, Kaiir can hold it down.
Yeah, I thought there were a couple plays where Elam could have squeezed a little further from, he was in like an outside zone, maybe cover 3, cover 2, whatever it was. And there was a receiver inside. The Jonnu Smith play over the middle is one.
Yes,
where you probably want him closing in on that receiver a little faster. But Elam is right now the number 3 corner on the team. And the game I saw from the number 3 corner is fine for a number 3 corner. That guy could be my number 3 corner all day long. Let me go back to the Ingram thing though first. Ingram has been the guy in dime this year. It's not like he's played 1,000 snaps, but he's played 3 times as many as Elam before this game. Were you surprised they went Elam over Ingram with Benford out in this game?
Not really, because it takes a different skill set to be a dime corner as opposed to an outside corner. And to be fair, Ingram hadn't really shown me that he was a dime corner in the first place. So I guess that means that they think Ingram's more physical because the guys who this think about football for a second here, guys. The closer you are to the football, the more physical you have to be as a football player. So that's why Taron Johnson is so physical. I was kind of shocked that Ingram, they thought that of him. However, on the outside, none of that really matters. Can you cover? And from what I've seen, I think Kaiir has more chops in that regard. But I thought if Ingram was out there, I'd be like, oh, okay, he balled. But I say all that to say I think Ingram deserved to be out there for sure.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised he didn't get, in addition, any time at all. But I think your point about, you know, dime and outside corner are not the same position. And just because Ingram's been playing one doesn't mean he's automatically going to be able or be the choice to play the other. Couple quick hitters for me on defense. I thought Terrell Bernard was really bad. And I wonder, and I bring this up to say, I wonder how much the ankle injury was still hampering him. Not only did he not play well, he looked kind of slow to where I'm, you know, at one point you're like, wow, you're just not playing well. Then it's like, you know, this looks like a guy that might still be worrying about an injury. So I'm very interested to see how he plays this week against Indy and, of course, next week against the Chiefs. Another one I want to bring up, totally out of left field. Von Miller had a good day against the run. late in this game, he made a couple of big time stops. He had a run play where it was a run for 3. So it wasn't a hugely, great defensive play on the stat sheet, but he blew up the tackle and then went right by the puller and was able to get onto the tackle. So I don't want to say that Von Miller's back to Hall of Fame level and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But when a guy that's supposed to be only a pass rusher is making some run stops, I think that's encouraging for where he's at physically. Carl, anything else from you defensively, maybe guys that stood out or points you want to make with the Bills on defense in this game?
Not necessarily. I know we'll have another time to chop it up after the Colts game, but I do think when they start playing some better quarterbacks, that's when I'll get the better gauge for who this defense is. And I know they've had missing pieces even dating back to the beginning of the season, but I do think they can play one way really well right now. I think that they can play zone coverage and cap off the defense and force you to matriculate the ball down the field better than just about anyone in the National Football League. But what happens when you go up against a quarterback or an offensive coordinator who has no issues doing that? That's where the concerns are a little bit haven't been alleviated at all. Because if you watch Monday Night Football, the Chiefs, they're boring, but they have no issues rattling off 12-play drives. That's what they want to do. And then we obviously know the Ravens want to do that as well, or can do that. That's where I want to see coming up on this schedule after the Colts game. Can they make some plays and get these teams off the field in those moments?
Yeah, and the thing that impressed me the most about the Dolphins in this game was their ability to do that. Because when they played in week 2, Miami couldn't go 4 plays in a row without doing something stupid. They had a few in this game, a couple of penalties, but for the most part, they were pretty clean, and I was impressed. Mike McDaniel had a good game plan. Tua had 3 incompletions. This was a high-level game the Dolphins played, and, I don't want to say the Bills should feel fortunate, but they had to play really well to get out of it. And to your point about the Bills being able to force the team to go 15 plays, it was funny rewatching this game how soft both teams played on defense. It really felt like both teams were afraid to attack the other team. The Bills and the Dolphins were just letting running backs and short throws and all kinds of check down stuff go over and over and over, 5s and 7s and 8s in the run game and in the pass game. And then only at the very end when it was necessary, did you see anybody even try a blitz? And I thought it was, to underline this point, the Bills early in the second half said, all right, well, we're going to stop letting them Dolphins throw to a running back out of the backfield. They come up a couple times, try to take that away. And that's when Miami threw over their head to Tyreek Hill a couple times. It was weird to see 2 defenses play as afraid, that's the best word, of each other in the same game as we saw in this one.
You get it from the Dolphins' perspective. They were down like 6 starters, including their best safety in Javon Holland, also missing their starting outside corner opposite of Jalen Ramsey. But man, that was very soft in what they were doing. And then also from the Bills' perspective, you're used to seeing them play 2 high safety looks, but it hits different when they have the success they're having as well. So you're like, man, you scared to throw a left hook at any point? Like, I know you tired of this jab hitting you, like, bro, so that was watching it back. You felt it live, but watching it back, you're like, damn, DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp barely in the screen.
That was, and the boxing analogy was perfect. This was a terrible jab only fight where guys just stood around, fight the fence. This is like a Floyd Mayweather classic. That's all this was. And hey, it really worked for both teams. I mean, the Bills won the game, and I'm sure the Dolphins are saying if Jordan Poyer isn't an idiot on a 3rd and long play that we had defended, then maybe we win the game. I'll tell you what, though, did you watch that close? I did think Keon Coleman, I wasn't sure, but I thought Keon Coleman was making that catch. Did you look at that one close at all or no?
You know what's funny? I was so locked into Jordan Poyer just losing his mind right there and just hitting the dude defenses that I didn't really pay attention to if Keon honestly had a chance to catch it. Did he have a chance to bring it in?
So the ball hit his arms. It got into his breadbasket. Cam Smith was the defensive back who was covering down the field, down the sideline, and he had a hand in there. And there's, it's all 22. You're not going to get like NBC it where you get to enhance it 5 different times or whatever. But I thought it was in there. And it obviously pops out when Jordan Poyer goes headhunting. I couldn't tell whether the ball was coming out early or not. I would say if you wanted to ask me to predict what would happen, I think he makes the catch if Jordan Poyer is legal. Now, Jordan Poyer could also hit him not in the head, like close to the waist, and maybe that knocks it out too anyway. But it was, I say that all to say, to use your phrase, Josh Allen threw a hell of a ball on that play because he was under some pressure and he put it right where it had to be. And maybe Keon makes the catch. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sure Keon is, whenever we find out his injury situation, I'm sure he told Josh, man, I was bringing that in if he ain't take my head off. So make sure Keon, we're going to go with the fact that Keon was going to bring that in for sure.
And he's going to say it, and then that's all that matters now. The Bills won the game. That's all that matters. All right. Anything else in this game? I'm done. I'm all out.
I'm all out. I can't wait to see if we see Joe Flacco for 3 quarters and the Colts say we're stupid. Let's put the young buck back in. We'll see.
That's a lie. You can't wait to see that. You just want to get past this game, same as me. All right. As always, you can check out Let's Talk Ball at rochesterfirst.com or at WIVB.com. At Rochester First, click on the sports tab and then click on 8 Sports Extra. It's all where all our extra broadcast stuff can be found. You can also watch this on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Next week will be the Bills and the Colts. Not expected to be a barn burner, but it's Jonathan Taylor. You never know. Carl and I will be back here talking about it then. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.